G'day and welcome on board the AH-94. I'm here with our Ground Marshal Dingus outside the chopper there, and in the front seat my gunner Wingus. So in this video I'll cover some of the background behind the various steps involved with starting the AH-94. I'll cover it in slow time and discuss some finer points along the way. Then I'll give a quick demonstration on how the AH-94 can be started as fast as the game mechanics will allow you to do it. So the first thing we need to do is get some electrical power to the aircraft by connecting the battery to the aircraft's electrical bus. Everything in our cockpit and some of the aircraft systems require electrical power to function. But most importantly here, the battery will quickly run out of charge when powering all of these systems, so we need to provide another source of electricity. So the next item we're going to power on is the Auxiliary Power Unit, or APU. The APU on the AH-94 is a small gas turbine engine which is electrically started by the battery. It's essentially a turbine engine generator which uses the jet fuel from the aircraft's main tanks to provide a number of different services to the aircraft. So you'll hear the jet engine noise as it starts up and runs. The RPM gauge will high idle, and you'll see there is now a fuel flow as it now draws fuel from the tanks. The APU generates electrical power which then recharges the battery. It also hydraulic system pressure, air conditioning, and most importantly for this startup process it provides a compressed air source known as bleed air, which is used to start the main engines. And just note that a lot of the info in this video regarding the APU and main engines applies to the other aircraft in the game too, namely the AV-42, the FA-26 and the single engine F-45. Next thing we're going to do is start the aircraft's engines then. So these are essentially just much larger gas turbines than the APU, and it also provides a torque output to the main rotor blades, obviously. So let's visually check the engine area is clear of personnel and obstructions, and we'll get the all clear from our marshaller. Yeah, he clearly knows what's going on. Before starting the engine, turn on the anti-collision light, which is standard practice. Now we'll engage the left engine start switch, noting the green light illuminates. And all the engine start system will do now is open the bleed air start valve to spin up the turbine blades and also create electrical sparks in the combustion chamber, so the fuel ignites. So we can allow the fuel to flow into the engine now by moving the throttle from off to idle. And you'll hear the engine light off when fuel is injected. Once the engine starter system has detected a significant rise in engine RPM, it'll close the start valve and stop creating ignition sparks, as you can see here with the green light extinguisher. So engine number 1 has started successfully and idling normally. Now we just complete the same process for engine number 2. Check the engine area clear. Get the OK from the marshaller. Engine number 2 starting OK. Yeah, it's hard to find good help these days. Engine start switch number 2, green light. RPM rising, throttle idle ready. VTOL doesn't have split throttle, so it's already on. Fuel on, engine lighting off nicely. Engine starter light extinguished. Okay, both engines started, RPM needle's not split on the gauge. Now that both engines have been started, the APU can now be turned off, as the engines and their inbuilt generators are now providing all electrical, bleed air, hydraulic power, etc. to the aircraft for us. Note that our fuel flow also goes down as the APU isn't running unnecessarily. So next thing is to get the main rotor blades unfolded and rotating. You can unfold the blades and release the rotor brake whenever you like, but this may not always be possible, such as on an assault carrier, etc. So you can be fully started up and ready and only extend the rotors at the last minute before takeoff when there's enough deck clearance, for example. So anyway, I'll get the all clear with this hand signal I just made up. Dingus doesn't even care. Unfold the rotors and check both sides to confirm all 4 over-center locks engage in the rotor lag hinges. And checked. Now the reason we can keep the rotor brake engaged with the rotor stationary while the engines are running is because this is a free turbine engine setup, meaning there's no direct mechanical linkage between the turbine engine and the main rotor shaft, so the rotor brake can stay engaged, and it simply means there's lots of torque as the engines are trying to push air on the rotor blade turbine stages. So let's turn the rotor brake off, which now lets us move the throttle above idle, but we'll leave it at idle for now. Rotors are now free to start turning, as you can see. And you can move the throttle levers from the idle detent to the flight detent right away, but if you're expecting a delay until takeoff, you can keep the rotors at idle and conserve some fuel. Anyway, we'll get our takeoff clearance.
Copy. Taxi to runway 20.
Taxi to runway 20, Sierra 11. Throttle to flight detent. Nav lights on. Rotor RPM in the green. Give our final wave off to the marshaller. Still has no idea what's going on. We'll have a taxi to the holding point, minding Dingus as we go. While we head over there, I'll just mention something about leaving the APU on. Now, I'm an advocate for mostly leaving the APU on if you have plenty of fuel on board when heading into a high threat environment. Not so much for the possibility of restarting a failed or damaged engine in flight, as the mechanics of this game don't really cover that scenario, but more to increase the chances of killing some additional enemies as you're plummeting to the ground in flames. Because with the loss of both engines and without the APU running, you'll run out of battery quickly and significantly reduce your chances of a successful auto rotation.
Sierra 11 tower, cleared for takeoff at runway 20.
Takeoff runway 20, Sierra 11. Landing light on, clear right, front, above and left. And without the electrical power, you also can't use any of the weapon systems while you're crashing or when you're on the ground and missing a few rotor blades. So generally, I leave it on so it's always there as a backup if you need it. Just don't let it eat into your fuel margins if you're low on fuel though. Anyway, that's the full length and in-depth startup sequence. Next I'll show you the fastest startup method I've found for the AH-94, and just a quick disclaimer before I restart the mission, and it's that this fast start method only seems to work at the beginning of a mission and not so much on respawn. So the best time I've been able to get is about 35 seconds when starting a mission and about 45 seconds after respawn. So just keep that in mind if you're trying this yourself. Okay, so here we are in a fresh cockpit. During this I'll only select the switches which affect the actual startup. I won't turn on any displays, etc. when there's spare time, just to keep it as simple as possible for the video. So when you do this yourselves, you'll find that you have time in between steps to get other systems ready, like the TGP, radar, lights, etc. Anyway, so here goes. Bat on, APU on, 1 banana, 2 banana, left engine start. Hold the throttle, push forwards, rotor brake off. Turn on the upper display unit, go to the stat page. When left engine RPM is a needle's width out of the yellow band, right engine start switch on. And now we just wait for the rotor RPM to reach the green band. So you can actually take off slightly before it gets to the green band, but I usually wait for it to be fully green, just probably more out of principle than anything. With faster switching and quicker arm movements than I did here, you should be able to get the chopper airborne in about 35 seconds. So next thing we'll take a look at is the shutdown procedure, a bit of the theory behind it, and finish off again with how to do the shutdown as quickly as you can. Okay, so we've just landed back at Akatan and taxiing back to our parking. Clear of the runway, check weapons disarmed, radar off, landing light off. Marsher in sight. Dingus is over there ready for us. Tail road is clear as we turn. We'll just touch down in high-fiving range of our marshaller here. Okay, parking brake on. So the shutdown process is a lot simpler than the startup. If you're expecting to be shut down for a long period, then just consider turning on the APU to preserve that battery charge. So what we need to do is stop fuel flow to the main engines and then wait for the rotors to stop. So move the throttle, leave it all the way to off. Now the rotor blades will begin to slow down as they're no longer being powered by the main engines, but they do have a lot of angular momentum, so it'll take forever for them to slow down. Anyway, you get the idea, so let's turn the rotor brake on. Now if you're at a rearming station, they won't start the process of rearming until the rotor blades have stopped completely, so you'll be waiting a while sometimes if they're hunting around the parked notch like they are now. So rotor and engine RPM 0, ready to rotor fold, give the signal to, it doesn't care anyway. Select rotor fold. Check the rotor stay correctly on right side and left side. Anti-collision light off. Now if you want the rotor blades to stop even faster, you can also raise the collective when the RPM has dropped off sufficiently. If you raise the collective too soon though, you'll risk lifting the helicopter into the air again with the momentum that's left remaining in the moving rotor parts. So the next thing we'll do is show you the fastest way that I'm able to shut down the AH-94. This is particularly useful for rearming mid-mission when the ground crew, as I said, won't start the process until the rotor blades have stopped completely. But before that, we'll finish off putting the aircraft to bed. We'll turn off all our avionics, displays, etc. APU off, battery master off. And I'm going to hop out and kick Dingus in the nuts here. Okay, so again the shutdown's pretty simple. So throttle idle, rotor brake on. Collective ease upwards without taking off. With the collective raised and the rotor RPM being this low, the alert tone will sound and the associated warning light will flash, which is normal. It saves about 5 seconds by using the collective to help slow the rotors. Using just the rotor brake, it takes about 25 seconds in total. Anyway, that's all I've got for the startup and shutdown of the AH-94. If you know of any shortcuts or methods that are better than what I've shown here, then feel free to hit me up on the Discord or in the comments below. And thanks for watching.